This footnote is about how not all cheese is made equal. So I couldn't help but notice in this book that there was a lot of talk about people looking for their particular cheese or their goal, but there wasn't really a lot said about how there is a difference between looking for those goals that address your basic needs versus those kind of loftier goals. I'm going to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid to try and describe what I'm getting at, which you have to give a bit of give there that it doesn't apply to all people in the same way. I personally feel like the bottom of my pyramid is safety before even some of my basic needs. But yeah, these people in the maze searching for their cheese, there's a big difference between someone who is looking for their basic needs to be met rather than someone looking for recognition or a higher paying job or to have the most successful business. In Who Moved My Cheese, Hem is happy to sit there, maybe because he's comfortable, but also because he prefers the stability. But that's not the only reason that someone might be sitting still. There is an effect that I've noticed in life where you start feeling really lost and defeated because you've been searching for these higher order needs to be fulfilled when you have these big holes in the base of your pyramid, so things keep falling down. And if you experience that much failure, it can really end up discouraging you from pushing forward. It feels like it's better to stay still and not increase your suffering. But then we could also maybe look at the mice who just run off to look for the next thing. Mice are more likely to just be fulfilling those basic needs. Sure, they like to play and have some fun, but animals in general spend more time fulfilling those basic needs and not skipping over those like humans have a lot of habit to do. So they also just ran off into the maze, happy to do that without worrying too much. So perhaps they are supposed to represent those natural instincts we've become a bit too good at ignoring. I have to admit, I have a pretty bad habit myself of ignoring some of those really basic lower pyramid needs, like food, water, shelter, sleep. I am terrible at forgetting to eat, forgetting to drink, and not to mention my sleep. I'm often too busy thinking about some of these other things, safety and security or self-esteem, even like that stuff right at the top of the pyramid, self-actualization things, the morality and creativity, and particularly like my full potential. I am often dissatisfied with not reaching my full potential, which is a little bit of a trap, but that's another story altogether. Even in saying that, I feel like it's pretty hard sometimes to even have the motivation to fulfill your basic physiological needs when you're missing those safety things that are described in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like health and stable employment, housing security. We will, in the end, fulfill our very basic physiological needs, but probably not to the extent that is needed to make a stable foundation. So I probably will argue the arrangement of those levels of the pyramid myself. But coming back to the story, it's not really realistic to expect the equal race towards fulfilling some of those basic needs and the higher order needs. And unfortunately, a lot of us are going to run off too deep into the maze without that energy from food and shelter and water that we need to really chase those bigger goals. But we are told by a lot of society that we have to have those, that we have to chase the big goals, but without the understanding that a lot of people didn't start at the same point of having those base foundations of their pyramid already built for them. A lot of people have to start from scratch, and it's going to take longer to get to building the top of your pyramid. So I don't think that was addressed particularly well in this book. Some people are running this race without that social safety that others have. They don't know if they're going to turn around one of the corners and be faced with violence. Others may not have the backup of a loving family. That's not a privilege everyone is just blessed with. So it's important to recognize the starting point. And I don't think it's a mistake that the pyramid is drawn as such, with those base levels much bigger, much heavier, and much more grueling to build. And these higher order ones, self-actualization, being the tippity top, doesn't have as many bricks in them. And I think that is something important for people to recognize, is building those basic levels of your pyramid takes a lot of work, and it's a lot of work that some of us didn't have to do. I was very lucky in that I've never needed to want for your food and shelter and clothing. And I've always had a loving family behind me. I don't like to compare our races for the cheese, because some people are starting so far back, and I don't blame those who have run out of energy and just have had to sit still and have lost hope, because the world really is very tough. And some of us really can't fully understand those experiences unless we've lived them. And because I haven't had as far to go, I aim to and try to leave little caches of cheese along the way, so that those who have further to go have some energy to keep on going. If we take all the cheese that's further up the path, there's not going to be anything to keep them going. And I think it's important for us to really recognize that there's people who are still following on, and we need to share those resources.